You know what? Every time I hear that song, I just smile because I get a chance to be on live with Pat Coppett, the one and only. And if you're out there and you have been wondering what it takes to achieve remarkable success, to overcome obstacles and transform performance in the face of big change, then you are in the right place.
That is right, John Register. We are back here with another episode of Performance Shift, the show that will take you on a journey of discovery and exploration and transformation and give you the tools to navigate your own moments of change.
Once again, my name is John Register. I'm a two-time Paralympic athlete, combat Army veteran, and author, and
I'm
a
Kat
Hall of Fame speaker.
Oh, you are, and I interrupted you. You are a Hall of Fame speaker.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
Oh my goodness, almost as impressive as a medaling Paralympic athlete, but I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Too many impressive things. I'm an organizational consultant, author, and improviser.
And
yeah,
the most amazing human you're going to ever meet in this world. Kat, I just adore you.
It's a love fest, John. It's a love fest.
Definitely. So anyway, together we are sharing our expertise and insights on navigating change and finding success in the face of adversity.
We are here some Saturday mornings when you're not traversing the world doing amazing things.
Or you.
Like heading off to Paris for the Paralympics. And you can also catch us asynchronously on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And if you've been enjoying these episodes, please select the notification bell and share them with a friend. We are so excited to have you on. You know, and I really do say that with all sincerity. I've known Kat for such a long time now, for my days working in the United States Olympic Committee, and afterward, and during the pandemic, we just got together, and every couple of about every weekend,
we just
started having these conversations, and it's turned into this. And they're really robust. I think not just conversation, but actionable steps that you can do in your business, in your company, as you're running things, just to think about things more strategically through the lens of performance and story theater, story improvisation, and the like. So we love having these conversations because we get the chance to play together every Saturday.
Yeah, you know, I do this a lot with organizations and groups all over the world. I have a lot of these conversations, but there's something very special, John, about your experience and your story and the way you've been applying it that really makes this a special conversation for me always. And I know it's help for the listeners as well.
It's likewise. Okay, so we're going to get on get out of the mud, out of love, and we're gonna focus it on you all right now. So if you're on, make sure that you are chatting with us. I'm going to be, if you see me looking off screen a little bit, that's because I'm looking at the chat that's there. So if you have a question during the show, please jump in there. We want to know that you are on board and with us. So just make sure you have a question for myself or from Kat. So today we're talking about collaborative storytelling, and this is something I think really how we got engaged one with each other. As I was working for the Olympic Committee and out there in Chula Vista, California, had some of the Paralympic athletes in, and we're trying to get them to tell their own personal story. But it really came under the framework of how we work together to have a story for an organization. And it was really pretty powerful. When you are doing your work, Kat, around the globe, you know, how are you using collective storytelling to really advance the business that you are working with?
Yeah. Well, I think you know, the way you started is the way we usually think about story, which is an individual sharing their narrative, crafting and sharing their narrative. And we do a lot of that work. And there's a whole other, even when you're doing that, as you said, it helps to recognize that storytelling by design, by definition, is really a collaborative act. So as I'm speaking, my audience is listening and they're making up a story in their head that, if I'm doing my job well, is probably, hopefully, aligned with the story that I think I'm telling. But they're as active a participant in that creation of meaning. So the first answer to your question is any storytelling act is a collaborative storytelling act. And when we realize that consciously that the listener is as involved as we are as the teller, we can be more effective storytellers.
Yeah. Yeah, because even when we're having conversation, I think it's the same thing, right? When we're in dialogue with each other, we're having a story, we're collaborating right now. And I'm
Right.
listening to what you're saying so that I can respond in like kind and build or challenge or take us off in a different direction for this. When executives engage in collaborative storytelling, we're really trying to create these narratives of that resonate with teams, that resonate with stakeholders and customers, which leads to stronger engagement and more unified approach to achieving these goals. I know when I'm working with my audiences, that is a part of my makeup, my DNA of who I show up as, because I don't want to be a one directional speaker, right? I really want the energy to come back so that I can hear what's going on and I can make little micro adjustments to the presentation. So I have a methodology. It's called I think I've showed it with you, that my SPOD SAT method, right? It's the story, point, application, activity, debrief, synthesis, then an action step, and then finally a transition to the next point. And so during that wrestling with the story in their own vernacular, so I tell a story, my point to the story, and then I'll say, well, how about you? You know, when was a time when you, or when was time did you, or consider time this way? So I get them to think about it in their own language. And now we begin to have a dialogue around how they are just heard that story, and we're talking back and forth, or they're talking to each other so that we're collaborating a story together, right?
Well, what I love about that, so that's sort of the next level of collaborative story, right? So if
Oh, I jumped. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, you did not. No, 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 not at all. Not at all. I think that's exactly really where we're going today, having
Yeah,
talked about storytelling. But I just want to, I'm just sort of noting, right, that you asked me, how do I use collaborative storytelling? And really
right,
what I
right,
said was any story is collaborative storytelling, right? So even if I'm the only one speaking, we are co-creating meaning.
right,
What,
right.
what you just talked about um, was actually inviting other people in and having sort of individual passing of the baton. So I share my story, you share your story, and that's in in the example you gave. One of the reasons for that is for them to take ownership of your message, right? So you've shared your story, and then they get a chance to translate that, right? Articulate the meaning in a way that really resonates for them or makes sense for them.
I like how you said passing the baton and taking ownership of um, our story,
Yeah.
because that's what a lot of, we'll talk about a brand that did that, right, a little bit later, on how they really focused in
Yeah.
and created an avenue for that.
Right.
Um, and the other thing I wrote down, for the notes was, Alice and I have, my wife and I used to have to get our story together
Oh dear.
before we went into parent teacher meeting or before we did, so I said, oh, that's right. We had to be united front when we went in.
I love that. And that, I would say, is sort of the third tier
Oh, I'm
of
going, I keep going
collaborative
higher.
storytelling. You're doing great. You're doing great. Which is we're actually co-creating one story a piece at a time, right? Or
Uh,
there's not one speaker and one listener or one author and one translator of the story, but we are together saying, here's what I know, here's what I know. What is the collective, literally the collaborative narrative that
yeah,
we're building together?
I love it. Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, we had some battles. And so we're plotting the entire way. I'm in the car going, no, yeah, what we're going to say on this one, gotta go. So
I love it. I love it.
it's so funny. Um, are there like any pitfalls to this? Some dangers of collaborative storytelling that you can think of that we should be, looking out for, mindful of?
Well, I
Um,
think, you said when we have to get our story together,
yeah,
you're pointing to one of them, which is it's messier. right?
Yeah.
I have my associations. I'm coming with my history and whatever the other stories are in my head. And if we're trying to move forward in some way, part of the process is saying, what is that story that we're building together, as opposed to diluting the core message, or going in different directions, or speaking in cross purposes. It can get messy, I guess, is
Yeah.
always the challenge.
Well, speaking about messy, let's go in there. We are now in a political season, and so this is perfect for in this time of storytelling,
Yeah.
because we see the narratives, a shared narrative by two very different parties, right? Of how they think America should move forward in its governance and the way that we show up around the world, even. So go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's all a storytelling activity, right? And
Right.
right now we're just coming out of the Democratic National Convention, right? That entire activity is a storytelling activity, right?
That's
What
right.
are the narratives we want to share? What are the voices we want to elevate? Who are we inviting in? And what is the narrative that's going to come out of this, that's going
That's
to
right.
carry us forward? I mean, it's been a unprecedented time in the last month of trying to shift narrative, right?
Right. Right.
So there was this
It,
ambient narrative around Biden, whether you bought into it or not, that he was, incapable or not the right person. And then we shifted to a new person, and we had to build narratives around who this person is, how are we going to present her, who are we as a party, what is our future story
right.
for America. And we collectively, I say we, right? We, the people of that endeavor, are making, they're all the individual stories, and collectively, what is the collective narrative that they're projecting out, and then handing the baton again
Yeah.
to the public and saying, what
Right.
stories are you going to hold and pass and believe?
It's really fascinating to watch. I mean, I got a chance to see it up close and personal a few years ago, as one of 35 co-chairs for a candidate that was there and that won. Um, the and now it was interesting to see not just the narrative that was for that party being shared, right, but also the narrative that was a counter narrative that comes from the opposing party, right? So you get the chance to see that, and then them elevating their narrative and inserting it, and the dance that goes between both is absolutely, it's a great. If you watch it from that lens of storytelling, it's really fascinating because you can see the narratives, right? You can clearly see how they're building their stories, and we can do that too with our own. Hopefully, not that divisive, but but we can build our own stories that actually really help people, and I think that's what we try to do, and try to stay on our own messages, so that people are willing to share those out as well.
Right. And it happens, with our clients as well. It's the same activity. What is our collectively owned story, right? So
Mhm.
you've got the values on the wall. What are the narratives that support those? Do we believe them? Are we in alignment with them? Do we actually believe those are just,
Just on the wall.
just on the wall, and we don't believe them because the ambient narratives, the collective narratives that we're holding about ourselves, don't align with them? And we've talked about this before, those sort of levels of story, right? So there are the individual anecdotes, and then there's whatever the key message is in one moment that those support or don't, and then there's just this ambient, what's the water that we're swimming in?
Yeah.
Right? So just like with a political party, how are we identifying ourselves? What are the sort of assumptions people make about us? All of those things are stories that cannot be owned just by one person, right? A leader alone by themselves can't say, we're a wonderful inclusive organization. Like, the people have to collectively have anecdotes and examples and experiences and ways of articulating that are
It's interesting you go that direction. I was laughing a little bit because of I took over a role. I was asked to take over a role. I was on a board. I'm still on the board of an organization, and the organization lost like 10 to 12 FTEs. They were struggling in leadership, and I think that was probably our fault as well for the board. And so I was asked to come in and be the acting CEO. And I used to be really kind of flippant about what keeps a CEO up at night, right? That's a kind of throwaway question. I don't know if that's really true. And then I got in that role, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot that's keeping me up at night.
yeah,
Thinking about and what I want to do in the morning time and all these. It was an amazing experience. I also know I don't want to do that again, but for those 7 months, we have the right person in the position now, which is fantastic. But the story, going back to what we're talking about with these values, we were misaligned on a lot of things. They were just placards on the wall. And because there was no adherence to them internally or externally, people were just all over the map. And no one knew who had the responsibilities to do what. And so we to cut across the field, I got the board back together and we wound up doing like a day-long session on just recalibrating those values. We actually did some pretty good work. Got vision, mission, and values. We didn't have a vision, so I really wanted the vision to set the tone where we're going to. So once we got that, we came to it pretty quickly. And then I'm like, okay, do we just do this and just kind of check the box? That's what I asked to our facilitator, and they said, no, you all had some really robust conversations. You really went deep on each other, right? And thought about the end of um, who really is going to be part of this process of what you're doing. And I think we came close. It wasn't all the way there. The new CEO wanted to kind of tweak a little bit, but that's fine. It's her prerogative. But it gave us an azimuth, right? We had a shared collective story now that we were able to put out into the market, and we were able to hold the line
yeah,
on our values because we truly believed these were the values. And then it was easier for us to um, say to anybody that didn't want to adhere to those values, well, our organization just might not be for you,
yeah,
right?
beautiful.
You can find if it's not for you, it's not for you. And we wish you well, right? And it really became a rallying cry, I think, on the collective story. Susan Kopcha, Susan Kopcha. Susan
I
Kopcha's on. Yeah, so she is. I see her name on a thumbs up. She gives a thumbs up. Thank you for the like, Susan. Appreciate that.
I the couple of things that I hear in that example, one is clarity of your message. So we talked about one of the potential issues with collective storytelling is it's not as clear as I get to sit down by myself and articulate my message. But when it's clear, when you take the time as a group to say, what is the story we want to be telling deliberately, then you can become clearer about your story as opposed to just I'm saying it and you're hearing it and we haven't vetted it with each other.
Right.
The other thing that I hear in there, which feels so important about actively collaborating on stories, is ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So by going through this process together and saying, what is our collective vision? What are our values? What does that look like? Right? What's the robust narrative around that? Folks walked away with responsibility for that story, a buy-in to that story, ownership of that story. And then they could go out and tell it. It was their own, as opposed to just someone else's story, right? The corporate story or the leader's story. It's like, it's my story. I helped to invent it. And my voice.
Yeah. And I think I could do even, in my own company, I think I can do even having this conversation, excuse me, I can do better at getting the audience to have a collective story
Mhm.
that aligns with, the company that they are with. So that's really good. So I'm learning something here about how I can do it and how I can not shift, but really do a more of alignment, even be better with the alignment of it.
Mm.
Um, because I think we can give them something that they can all agree upon to move forward, right? So that
Mm.
becomes the next action step forward. It's sometimes it's tough because they're all in different locations and they're not in the same. They're just like they're in the same industry, but they're not the same company, right? So they're kind of
Yeah.
like that. But that doesn't mean
Well,
that they can't have a shared.
yeah, no, I love what you're saying. It makes me think about, we go out and we teach this and we facilitate and consult to, giant organizations. And then I come home and I have my little organization that I'm the leader of, like you do. And, how do you practice what you preach, right? Like
Right, right,
theoretically, I'm sure like all our listeners are going like, oh yeah, like duh, of course. Um, and I know that coming out of COVID, I hired more people. So I had more full-time people as opposed to just contractors. And one in specific was a very wise, experienced, senior level consultant who was coming to me from the University of Oregon Law School. And I mean, he's amazing. And at first it was rocky. And I think it's because we didn't have a shared story, right? There was a way that we
Mhm.
had to trust each other and also find each other. And part of that for me as a leader was really being comfortable, not just theoretically or intellectually, um, with expanding the narrative of my organization, sharing the story, right? So, yeah, it's my company, it has my name, I've sort of founded it, but how do I expand the story to include other people while still feeling like I'm holding on to the moral of the story, my goal, my vision, everything that's true over here. How do I widen that to include other people's vision and story and goals?
I love that. Yeah, it's really good. Um, so I want to share that really quick little case study because I said I would do it early, and then we can jump into our game if we have a game
Yeah,
that's going
please.
today. So the case study one I found was Coca-Cola, and they were the Coca-Cola Share a Coke campaign. I thought was relevant. So Coca-Cola's Share a Coke campaign is an excellent example of collaborative storytelling. The company invited customers to find bottles with their names on them and share their stories on social media. This simple idea turned into a global phenomenon, right? So it led to increased sales and brand engagement, but it's I think that's why we want it, right? Because we want this shared experience one with another. So then that leads us to think about how can we use what Coca-Cola did and begin to have these shared experiences around the topics that we talk about. What's the commonality? I always talk about being specific enough with our story that is general enough for everybody else.
Ah, so
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, that's what we're taught. So all right. So I think we're coming up on. We've got like 5 minutes left. We'd love to play a game. So it'd be you got one.
Well, I figured we're talking about collaborative storytelling. We got to pull one of the fundamental, very oldest, most beloved improv games of all time, which is called Word at a Time Story. So we're going to get as collaborative as we can possibly get, John, and we're each just going to get one word at a time, and we'll go back
All
and
right.
forth, and we will tell our story. So I don't know if we've got some folks out there who want to give us a title for a story, or if you have an idea for what our story should be about.
Let's do that. I don't know if anybody's out there that wants to put in the comment section a a prompt, a prompt for the story. I haven't seen anybody that's engaged in the prompts today.
All right,
In
we can do
the
it
effort.
ourselves. What's our prompt,
Okay.
John?
Our prompt today is let's do airlines.
Oh, nice, nice. All right. Let's tell the story in the third person, right? So Mary, the dog, the flight attendant, as opposed to in the first person. It'll just be easier for us to keep track of what we're doing. Okay, so sitting
in
a
airport
Jeremiah
was
frustrated.
period.
He
Looked
over
at
the
flight
counter,
and
noticed
that
the
attendant
was
sleeping
in
the
chair.
period.
He
Got
up,
and
went
to
her,
and
shook
her
gently.
period. She, oh, I'm sorry, that was period.
That's great. That's great. Jolted,
and
apologized,
for
sleeping.
on
The
job.
Jeremiah
Then
gave
her
a
latte.
you
Should
take
more
care,
to
stimulate.
yourself.
Okay, maybe we'll stop there.
Period. End story. Cut scene.
So I'm not sure that it's appropriate to go up to employees, and we are not advocating shaking them awake. But it was nice of him to give her a coffee. So how was that for you, John?
It was good. I've done this one before with you a few times, so I felt just more comfortable and not trying to direct the story. But then getting in the story, it's like, oh, we can go this way with the story and
Yeah.
see if I can prompt something that would get her to go in this direction and collaborate to where we want to go. So that was, that was good for me. How about you?
Well, I love what you just said about this idea of sharing control and also sharing responsibility. And I think that's what, when we're talking about collaborative storytelling, especially as leaders, right? It's not about just like do whatever, right? You have your point of view and your intention and your goal. How do you share the responsibility for that and also share the control?
Right. Yeah.
That was super fun.
That was great. I thought it was gonna be a good show today. It always is.
Glad to be back. Glad to be back.
When we improv. Yeah, love it. So thanks. Any final thoughts that you have? Anything that you want to promote or what you're doing that people can
well, we have the new book, Facilitate Advantage, which has a whole chapter on storytelling, but also all of the other skills that you need as a leader, specifically directed towards people who may not consider themselves professional facilitators, but understand the value of those skills. We're doing a 3-day intensive workshop in person in October on facilitating using applied improvisation, using improv theater techniques. So if you're into that and want to know more about that, come on by. You can find information about all of that at cockpit.com.
Awesome.
How about you, Mr. Hall of Fame speaker? What's going on for you?
Yeah, lots going on. One of the things we started this year, and it's starting to get some traction now. It takes a little while, I guess, and that is our JR's 90-day leadership sprints. And so we start off with resilience. We go into faster commitments. We're going to call that something else, I think. But as we're moving through this, there are folks that are coming from all over the globe that are in this community, and they're really starting to have these cross-culture conversations. We have a little mastermind that goes on inside of it, and I depart the mastermind. So I'm not in there, so they get a chance to talk without my voice being in there. And then we come back and we have these amazing shared discussions. So they get a chance to learn who each other are. And so a mother and daughter are in there now. And so a mother and son, and he's like lives in here. She's lived over in Denmark. So it's really, it's fun watching it grow and watching to see this community have these shared stories, right? This collaborations from all over, because we think we're so different, but are we really, right? we still want to do things not the same. So that's the big thing. And then, of course, the Paralympic Games, as we're talking right now on this date, are about to happen and start in August. So I'll date the show a little bit. And I get a chance to go over there and work with some brands and major companies to see if they want to sponsor in the World Championships. So I can't wait to go over and have that experience. Can't wait to learn.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's it, everybody, for today's show of Performance Shift. And we hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained some valuable insights that you can apply to your own life and work. If you want to learn more about the power of transformation, how you can shift your own performance to achieve your goals and dreams, be sure to subscribe to newsletters, LinkedIn Live, the Facebook, and or your YouTube channel, and join us for our next episode. If you found this episode helpful, we'd love for you to leave us some feedback, review on your favorite social media where you listen to the show. Your feedback helps us to improve the show and reach more listeners like you. So we'll see you the next time on another episode of Performance Shift. My name is John Register.
I'm Kat Coppett.
And we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.
Bye.